Hey guys, today we're out in this field because I saw some good examples of a new plant I want to introduce you to that is just starting to grow here in the mountains. And also because here in this clearing I found some great examples of other plants that we've already talked about in previous videos in later stages of development. So I thought I would just stop here and shoot a quick video on some useful wild edibles and some useful wild plants in general. So stick around and we'll talk about those. One of the new plants that I want to talk about is this one, Paciflora Carnata, or North American passion fruit, or as my Cherokee ancestors referred to it as Okoi. You can see here the flowers just recently opened, and right there is the ovary where the fruit will develop. You can see here how the flower pod here is just recently popped open, which is how they get one of their colloquial names, maypops. Now, one of the things that gives this plant away when it's growing is the trilobed leaves. They're pretty easy to spot from a distance, and the vine has a red color to it. But there's more to it than that. If you catch them before the flowers pop, here you see two of the pods growing on the vine with the trilobed leaves. And here you can see one of the pollinated fruit already starting to develop. And so it won't be long. This will start developing in size and produce a very citrusy tasting fruit. I find it pleasant to eat. My daughters like it, so. But it's one to remember. I'll see if I can find some that are a little larger, more developed, so you can see what I mean. Here's a little better view of those pods. I noticed it was a little blurry in the previous video, so we see how they have 5 sections that pop open and there's 10 leaves inside. And the fact that they may pop while you're looking at them is exactly how they got their nickname maypops. Another plant growing in this field is lamb's ear. It's a pretty common plant here in the southeast Tennessee and in the southeast in general, and a good one to be familiar with. These leaves are soft and fuzzy, and its nickname, or one of its nicknames, is hillbilly toilet paper. I think Confederate toilet paper was another derogatory term used for it in books about the Civil War. But it's one of the safe plants that can be used for toilet paper without causing yourself a rash in most cases. I don't know of anyone that's been allergic to it so far. I guess it's always possible. Best to check it and see before you risk a rash in sensitive areas. Another useful plant to know here is great mullein. This plant will probably be as tall as I am or taller by the end of the growing season, but right now it's barely up to my waist. And the flowers have just begun. When its flower head is completely flowered, it will be all bright yellow flowers. Now, this one is a good one to know for multiple reasons. If you read up on it, you'll see that people that are much more qualified than me in the subject use it in various ways medicinally. But also, it can be, the leaves are very similar in structure to the lamb's ear and is often used for the same exact reason, for hygienic purposes long-term stays in the bush. But also the stalk, once it grows and dries, will be very hard and very fibrous and makes a really good spindle for friction fire. So it's another good plant to be familiar with. These two here are garlic seed pods. You can see how once the flowers have been fertilized, they develop into seed, and then they stay up high on the stalk, blowing in the wind until something scatters them. Where they are useful for us is that they can be ground up, cooked in stews and soups. They can make a thickener or just a flavor enhancer for wild soups, stews, and salads. So I wanted to bring that up since we talked about garlic and onions earlier in the year. And these seed stalks growing here are what give away the broadleaf plantain growing down below all the other vegetation. You can see here, these are the leaves, the seed stalks. If you do some reading up on this plant, you'll find out that it's a lot more useful than the people who want to spray a lot of herbicides in your yard want you to know. But there are a lot more people, much more qualified than I am, to teach you how to use it. I am just trying to teach you how to safely identify it. Here you can see the bottom of the leaf on the left and the top of the leaf here on the right, and maybe this will give you a better look at the seed stalks if I can focus on the leaves. But to my knowledge, there are no scary lookalikes of it in the southeastern part of the United States. The legend behind it says it didn't exist here until the Europeans brought it here, because it's that valuable as a food source and as a source of medicine. So it's a good one to be familiar with. I can attest to the edibility of it. I've eaten it before. I've just never made medicine from it. Though I have used medicine made from it that other people made. It's good at stopping bee stings, and it's good for pain relief and muscles. So it's a good one to know about, a good one to add to that toolbox of knowledge in the head. And over here in the edge of the tree line, we find a few blackberry bushes growing, and a few ripe blackberries ready to munch on. Just the right mix of tart and sweet too. Well, I did manage to find a few that were more developed, riper. But if you can hear it, that's because I had to come into the city to find them. They're not this well developed on the mountain, but it's the Tennessee state wildflowers, so there are a lot of them around. A lot of them grow in our parks and in clearings along the river here. And this is what they look like when you cut into them when they're ripe. You can see how the fruit is developed. It's almost kind of like little ears of corn inside the pod with a small seed inside. And basically you just suck the pith and the juice out and spit out the seeds. It's very high in vitamin C. It's good nutrition. So as you can see, not all woodlands are wilderness. And so neither are all woodland resources. Today things are much more urbanized, and it pays to know a little jungle craft as well as bushcraft. And I'll be going into more of that in another video later. Survival techniques in urbanized terrain. Until then, I'll see you next time.